Hello, everyone. This is Women on the Move Book Club, and it is Thursday, January the 11th, 2024. And we have another great book to talk about this evening. But first, we'll start with introductions. I'm Cindy.
I'm Vivian.
I'm Sam.
Melanie.
I'm Tiffany.
I'm Harriet. I was tending to another call.
Odella.
Sadie.
All right. So I think we got everybody. And then, Sam, you had introduced yourself. So thank you. So I'm going to turn it over to tonight's host. She'll share the title of the book, the author, and then she's leading the book club. So, Tiffany, I'll turn the meeting over to you.
Thank you. So my choice for this month was American Dirt by Jeanine Cummins. I didn't know anything about the book when I chose it. A friend of mine, a good friend that loves to read as much as I do, had just given it to me, and Cindy put us on a short time limit to choose our book. And I thought, I don't have time to research a book right now, so I'm just going to pick this one. American Dirt. It was really interesting. I don't know that I want to go back through and like recap it. I mean, it's about a mom and a son trying to escape the cartel in Mexico and get to America. It was very interesting. I when it first began, I texted Melody and I said, "Oh no, what have I done?" Because with the whole massacre thing, that's not my style of book at all. So that I was not sure what to do with that. Once I got through it, I really did enjoy the book. I really enjoyed the characters. I really enjoyed how the author set you up so that you knew them personally. You didn't know just their names and where they were from or who they were related to, but you really knew their personalities and their thoughts and their fears and everything that they were going through. I really enjoyed that. Lydia, the main character, the mom, what a story for her to pick him up and carry him basically across the entire country, and not having known how to do any of that, to learn how to, live under that radar and escape, the biggest cartel in Mexico. How terrifying would that have been? And I went through the whole book and just held my breath most of the time. I had favorite characters. I had unfavorite characters, just like everybody else. The thing that struck me the most, though, is I was raised in San Diego. So, and I was part of East County. So in East County, the coyotes run constantly. I was even involved in an FBI freeway, like, how do you call it? I'm trying to think of how you would say it, where they come up on the car real fast and then everybody stops and everybody jumps out with guns. And I got caught in one of those raids. And so my opinion of the coyotes and the illegals and the whole living right by Mexico. I mean, I grew up going to Tijuana. That was what we did every weekend. I spent most of my summers in Rosarito. That's just what we did. So to have been part of that and seen coyotes and know families that have come through it, I had a very different opinion than I do now after reading this book. I've always heard, the American dream, and I've always been one of those very steadfast, welcome to America, just do it the right way. Go through, get your papers, do what you're supposed to do, come on over. But I don't think I've ever realized how drastic or frightening it would have been. And I think if I wasn't a mom, this book would have affected me very differently. So for me, it was like living at home again and seeing them come across the border. And I mean, we were in a restaurant that one of the doors opened up and it was one of the underground tunnels, and out came about 60 illegals through the restaurant and out the door in Hamul. And that's just the way it was. I mean, you didn't say anything. It's none of your business. You just stay out of it. And, but after reading this book, it really makes you think what terrifying situations these people have to escape from. So my heart really broke for Lydia. And I thought Luca was the most brave little guy there ever was. And I mean, I can only imagine my son at that age, would he have been able to endure that? I mean, I guess you do what you have to do, but was terrifying. That poor little guy. It was just terrifying to me. I did print up some questions. So I thought I would, before I do questions, just go through and let everybody, if you want to talk about one of your favorite parts. One of my favorite parts was the relationship that Luca developed with the twin sister. I can't remember what her name was, and I'm so bad with names, I'm sorry. But the more shy, not the real beautiful one, the other one. He developed such a sweet relationship with her, almost protective, almost like a big brother. And that was probably my favorite relationship in the book. So I would like to hear what your favorite relationship or part was. Cindy, should we start with you?
Sure you can. My favorite relationship would be Lydia and Luca, just because that mother and son bond. Oh my gosh. It's like what you said when the book opened, I was just like, I mean, Luca's in the bathroom hiding, and he's hearing all his home get shot up. He doesn't know what's happening, but he's hiding in the shower. Then one of the gunmen comes in the bathroom, and by the grace of God, he's quiet. He's not discovered. So that bond with Luca and Lydia was just so beautiful. And you said something, Tiffany. I was on the edge of my seat through the whole book. It was a page turner. I couldn't wait to see what was going on, but it's like I'm anxious for them the whole time. The thing that sticks out to me in terms of favorite, it's not a good thing, but it's something that they had to endure. It's the scene, and I could picture this whole book in reading it. The author did an excellent job in the description, so I could see them. When Luca and Lydia had to learn how to hop on the train, and the
Right.
sisters' names were Soledad and Rebecca.
Rebecca.
Rebecca and Soledad. So when they taught them how to hop on the train, because people died that way, that was just like, wow. When you say brave, yes. So I'll say that was one of my favorite. Even though it was trying, it was just a testament as you do what you have to do. A train is moving, and by the grace of God, they were able to hop on and had to do it numerous times through the book.
And I guess you don't know what you're capable of until you're put in that position, because I don't know if I could have let my son jump to a train. I don't know if I could have done that. I don't know. So how about you, Sandra?
Also, my favorite character or relationship was between Luca and his mom. I look at him as he was 6 years old.
8.
And pardon me?
He was 8.
8 years old.
8 years old. And how bonded they were. And you talked about the bathroom scene. One of the things is he kind of knew intuitively what to do when his mom and when to be quiet. And I'm wondering if my children or my child would have known, okay, don't talk, don't say anything, because normally you would see, I don't know how he knew, just be quiet, be still, just trust me, believe me, and do it. He was very protective of his mother also, I felt. There was just a special bond there between mom and child, and also what a mom would do for her child.
Mm-hmm.
The lengths that she would go to save her child, I thought was very interesting. And I think it takes on a different meaning once you're a mom. I agree with you. Had I not been a mom, Tiffany, I agree, I probably would have felt a little differently about it. But being a mom, you can understand what you would do and the lengths that you would go to just to save your child.
Right. Right. Harriet, you want to go next? I'm going in order of how I see you on my iPad. I'm not picking you.
The relationship that really struck me was the relationship that Lydia had with her husband and her family, and when they told their story. it was just a continuum of caring and sheltering. I know, they were the family was put in some very difficult situations, but even in that, her husband tried to, support his family. And I just enjoyed the relationship and the whole family dynamic.
How about you, Odella?
Okay, I could just say ditto with everyone else, but in reality, I think the relationship that I pondered about the most continuously was the relationship that Lydia had with herself. Because the woman that she was at the beginning of the novel evolved. And I liked her conversations that she had with herself. It was almost like they were bigger than pictures themselves. When she questioned herself about, how do I ask my child to do this? Or what if I make this decision and it's the wrong decision? Or if I turn left instead of right? The fact that she was constantly questioning herself and her role, her new role, because she blossomed and developed and she found her own personal strength. There were times that I was angry with her too, because in some ways she was kind of naive. And I'm not sure that her husband protected her per se, but I think she found protection in her role as a caregiver. But at the same time, she had to fly, like birds do. She wanted freedom, and to have that freedom, she had to change. And so watching her question herself, her thoughts, and her relationship in the different roles that emerged throughout the book.
It really made you take a look at yourself in how you would handle a situation in a crisis like that. It made me look at myself. I mean, we're pretty spoiled and pampered here in the United States. And I think, okay, if I were in a situation like that, could I have done this? Could I have done that? Could I have done that? And Odella, I think you're right. I think her constant growth and persecution almost of herself, pushing herself to go to the next level. I'm going to do this. I can do this. I'm going to make this work. I thought it was really impressive. And I loved the way the author really just let her be, but let her grow and change too. I really liked that. Okay, Zadie, you're up next. You're on mute though.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'm going to agree with you. At the beginning of the book, I didn't know if I could read it because it was just so real, And so I'd read a few pages and then stop. And then I'd do a little more and stop, It's like that, it was a little hard, But then once, you got into it, it was really good. And I'm going to say ditto with everyone. The relationship with mother and son, that was remarkable because, like you said, when you asked your kid to do things, he did it. He knew to do it. And like, you said, we're spoiled here. Our kids are spoiled. You ask them to do something they don't do, so. That was just remarkable, and you would do anything to save your child on there, and that relationship was just remarkable. And I did question myself. I said, could I get through that trip? I don't know on there, but I think I would do anything to save my child.
Yeah. How about you, Melody? If you're not up to it, you can just pass.
No, it's okay. Of course I would be the same. I mean, I love what Adela said about Lydia. You could really see the evolve and change, her mistakes, and then just, talking with her husband about it, and then really feeling like they were okay with what they were sharing, only to find that, the circumstances, um, no one knows how other people are going to react when they find out about their father or whatever. Um, I have to say that I loved towards the end, you've got the sisters, relationship that was very, special, and you could tell that they just were, trying to help each other, help their family. They were just, it was so heartbreaking to know that, they were getting out and doing what they needed to do, but in doing so, their father's life became in peril. And more than likely their mom and grandmother were as well. But then the last, you had Lydia and Lucas and the two girls, and then Beto. And I just loved his tenacity and how he just, kind of went along with everything, and, breaks your heart with what happened to him. And, but it was all part of that story, that it was just, they were intertwined with each other, and the relationships that crossed over, and the speaking, in their own heads about different things. And the author just did a really good job of really, tying the story in together, but at the same time, building these relationships. And so I enjoyed that. I would say probably my most, like you, it'd be hard to do that with my own kids, but I loved how they understood that they had to get on the train, and they had to start doing that, and it became secondhand. And then I really liked Lydia's, reminder, hey, remind us that this is not normal, that we're getting on normal, like whatever, but remind us this isn't normal. This isn't how it's supposed to be. And I just liked that, because it kind of grounded it, it brought it down to life. So,
And it almost made him feel as though that escape pattern were temporary. This is not going to be forever. This is just for right now. I liked that too. Yeah. Okay, Miss Vivian.
Okay, I'm gonna ditto with everybody else. Mom and Lucas, they were the stars of the show, and I think more than anything, I like the little secret messages they could send to each other without saying anything to anyone else. He would look at her a certain way, and she would look at him, and they understood immediately what each other wanted the other one to do. For him to be such a small child, he was very, very smart. And she needed that for that trip. This was a really learning experience for me. And like everybody says, I would do the same for my child if I was in that same situation. And I think the thing that really helped me to really understand the bond between mother and son is every time they met someone new, they had to really determine, do I trust or not trust? And how do I treat these people that I'm meeting, and who can I trust? And that became a major problem throughout the book, because they were constantly meeting new people. And they just didn't know who was with the cartel, so to speak, or who was trying to do the same things that they were trying to do. It was a lot of blind trust that they had to make in order to make connections with people to get through that situation.
Right. So one of the relationships that I struggled with through the whole book was Lydia's relationship with Javier, the head of the cartel. When he came into the bookstore and you immediately knew who he was, she didn't, but the author let you know. I'm just screaming in my head, no, 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 no. And I just didn't want that to develop into a relationship. And I really didn't want it to become a romantic relationship. I was really struggling with that. But his desire for her, I wonder, had they found her and Luca in that bathroom, would they have taken her to him, or would they have killed her?
Mm.
Well, he
Because
told
then
her, he told
because
her
then he sent people out to find her.
He did.
because he wanted the boy, but he told her he would never kill her.
Right. So, and then at the end for her to take the phone and call him and say, you will never,
Right.
ever touch us.
Right.
I thought, what courage. I mean, I don't know if I could have looked Hitler in the face and said, never, you know, and I mean, just a horrible person. And her heart was so transparent when she found out the reason for the hit was because his daughter and the pain he was feeling, she hurt for him.
Right.
I thought that was so interesting. You know, I don't know if I could have done that. I don't know if I would have hurt for him after he killed my entire family. I don't know. It just really showed another side of her character. I thought that was just surreal almost. I just could not wrap my head around it.
And
Any comments on that one?
Can I say another thing? He never found out that it was his daughter that sent the poem to the newspaper.
Right.
He never found that out. And he thought it was her. He thought Lydia did it.
Right.
Exactly. I think that with Javier, I can understand Lydia's compassion, and it was just compassion of a mother. Because you picture, it's like, wow, if that had been my daughter and she committed suicide. So I think it was compassion of a parent. Even though he was horrific, it just showed she had a heart of love, and I wouldn't say forgiveness, but it's like, you know, you put yourself in that situation and, you know, it's like, that could have been my son. What if he committed suicide? You know, so, and it shows too that she really did care about him. I'm glad it didn't turn into a romantic because I was like, oh no. Because it's
I think she, when she got to know him though, remember that was his only real love or Achilles heel.
Correct.
And so she knew that. So she knew the hurt that he was feeling.
Yes.
As a friend, you know. But, you know, when you start looking at the big picture, she even said it wasn't fair what he did.
Correct. But I love the fact at the end she stood up, because it's like she was taking her power back. It's like, I've been on the run, I got safe, I've gotten all this distance, but it's like, I've got to take my power back and let him know, you know, you are not going to do this to me anymore. So I love that fact, because sometimes that's what you have to do, stand up to the bully and let them know, I got away from you and leave me alone. That's it, enough.
You don't own me.
Right, correct.
I think at that point she came to like a point of self-actualization.
Amen.
You know, I do have control. I do have power. I am resilient. You know, all these things came at me, but still they didn't defeat me. So, you know, I can move forward. I think that was a great lesson for her and for her son and the others that were with him.
Right. Yeah. Anybody else having anything to say on Javier?
I often wonder, did Javier come there in the beginning because he knew what the husband was involved with, and he wanted to get close to her so that he could get more information or what have you? But I think he had alternative motives when he first approached her.
Do you? Okay, I never thought that, Vivi. So you thought he had ulterior motives? Okay.
Interesting.
Did the rest of you think that too?
Oh, definitely. I was suspicious of him from the very beginning.
Okay.
It just didn't feel right.
Okay.
Didn't feel natural. I mean, he was coming off too strong for me.
Right.
You know, and all of a sudden, you know, you want to be my best buddy friend? I don't know. It didn't feel right from the beginning for me, and I was suspicious. Even though I didn't know what his role was, I just said, something's not right about this guy.
Okay.
Hit me wrong.
All right. Let's talk about the husband for a second. I couldn't help but be very angry with him through the whole book. I was just so pissed that he didn't take into consideration. I mean, I understand being a journalist, I understand, but I mean, you also have to know where you live and what you're up against and what you're doing. And for him to put his entire family in jeopardy for an article, even though the article isn't what prompted, the article is what led to the situation. I mean, it didn't prompt the massacre, the suicide did. But if the article hadn't been written, the daughter wouldn't have read it, and so on. And I just think, I don't know how angry, I was so angry at him the whole time. I was just so pissed off. I wanted to scream at him for Lydia. I wanted, her to be able to say to him, why would you do this to us? And it just never, I was never able to let that go through the whole book.
But then he asked her if she thought it was okay to print that, and she said yes on there. So he did ask her, and then he asked her, should we get away? Should we go somewhere? And she's like, oh no. So yeah. So I don't know.
That's why
I
said
think
she
they
was
were both
extremely
naive to a certain
Yes.
degree. They both were naive regarding that, because I don't think if he had known what they were going to do, I don't think he would have done it. I think he was very adamant about getting the information out, and he thought that it would make a difference. But sometimes you have to look, it's like these people, and it's like they're in Mexico, it's like they don't care about you. It's like these massacres happen all of the time. It's not like it's few and far in between. That's just a lifestyle. So I don't know if it was just naive or just, I'm self-righteous, I'm going to get this out there, and without thought to protection for his family, because they were all killed. Except for Lydia and Luke, and they were on the run, and Javier had his people out for them, or out after them.
And his people were everywhere.
They surely were.
Through the whole country.
Thank you.
They were everywhere.
Yep. So I looked up book club questions, because I just wasn't sure how I wanted to take this conversation. And the number one question or statement is, Sebastian's article had a negative impact on Lydia's life, as it ultimately led to the massacre of her family and forced her to flee from Los Llaneros. However, it shed light on the corruption and violence within the cartel and could potentially bring about change in the long run. Do you think a journalist's responsibility is to report the truth no matter what? Or should they be more cautious about withholding information from their articles, especially if it comes to saving their family?
I think we've already kind of answered that, because he put his family in jeopardy, and he knew what the cartel would do. He knew what he was dealing with. And so I say they need to consider everybody that's involved before they print a story.
And I think in printing, you can get the message out without pointing a finger. You know what I'm saying? It's like in a classroom. It's like there could be 3 students who aren't paying attention to you, and you can say to the whole classroom, I need all eyes on me, and then the students who weren't looking at, 97% of them are looking at you, but the 3% who aren't, you're giving them a message, pay attention. So I think you can say that it's like there's a lot of corruption in our city. We're seeing more on the east side, or, I think you can draw attention without being specific. I think his article was too specific. It was very revelational, where everybody knew. And it's like, you wrote this. It's like, do you think these people are not going to retaliate? They're wicked. They don't care about you and your family. That's what they do every day. They get pleasure out of this.
They leave heads on the sidewalks as warnings. And it's just a normal thing in that world.
Right.
Where, I mean, if I saw a head on the sidewalk here, I would need therapy for years. There, it's part of their life.
Correct.
So another question that I thought was really interesting is, where did it go? The sharp contrast between the flags of the US and Mexico and the lines in the border is a clear testimony of the economic debilitation of the two countries. One is bright and shiny, while the other is dusty and gloomy. Do you think there is any other way to present this inequality? I thought an interesting way for her to describe that, because I've been through many of the border towns, and I don't know that I've ever noticed the flags. I will now if I ever go back, but for them to be able to look across and see the shining American flag versus theirs.
And then who was it that pointed that out? Was it the little boy that died? What was his name?
Beto.
Beto, yeah, he pointed that out. He said that, you know, why couldn't they do something with their flag to make it nice like the American flag? I think that was that was done purposely for us to see the difference that these people are dealing with when they showed how gloomy it was on the Mexican side.
Correct. They're showing that contrast in everything. There's hope on the American side. There's despair here. There's brightness, light and dark. So yes, I think that was intentional.
Yeah, the grass is greener. Very
Yes.
interesting.
Can
Very
we
interesting.
go back just for a moment, back to the previous question about whether or not you can get a message across without really pointing a finger? History tells us you can't. There has to be a sacrifice. I mean, if you think about huge events in American history, somebody had to die for the good cause. I mean, I'm not justifying it because I certainly wouldn't want my family to be put in harm's way. But for change to occur, history tells us somebody's got to die.
Well, even in the Bible, it says an eye for an eye.
So I don't have a clean answer. I wish it were that way. But when you asked that, I was thinking in my mind all the things that had happened in history and things that had to happen in order for people to pay attention, because human nature is to justify. Well, they brought it on themselves, or it's their fault because it's like this. But yet, there are things that happen because there are immoral people in the world. And if attention isn't brought to them, things will stay the same.
Right. Very well said, Odella. But my question is, can we bring attention without death? And I think there's a way. I don't know what the answer is, but is there a way that we can peaceably do it? Because look at a lot of people, and I'll just use this real quick as an example, people who continue to be killed senselessly, and it continues to happen. So we know about it. You know, the media brings light to it, but then 2 days later, 2 weeks later, it happens again. So it's like we need to find some better solutions versus a sacrifice so that we make the change. Why can't there be the change without the devastation, you know, when it's already been there in terms of repeating it? That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Sure.
Just
How
as
do
a
you
thought,
change the
but
heart?
yes, what you're
How do you
saying
change
is
the hearts of man? It's like asking, how do you change the hearts of man?
right.
There are cold, evil people in the world, and they seem to blossom more
Correct.
than the good people.
But
There's
again,
no
that's
easy
been
answer.
since the beginning of time. The serpent in
Correct.
the
Yes.
Garden of Eden, Cain and Abel. I mean, all the
Right.
way back to the
Yeah.
very beginning of time, it has been good versus evil. And
Exactly.
yeah,
And
I've
the
always told
heart
my
of man
kids,
is evil.
yeah, I've always told my kids, good will always come ahead. You know this because in every Disney movie, the bad guy dies. So the good guy's going to win. All right, I just have one more question or one more thing for us to discuss, unless somebody else has something to say. Has this changed your opinion or ideals or thought process on migrants and immigrants?
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
I learned so much in looking at this and reading this book about what they go through. And another thing, shortly after I finished the book, they had a story on the news about migrants. And that's the first time that I've seen migrants on top of a train. I never saw anything like that until after reading the book. And I said, oh my goodness, how, it changed my way of thinking about how their reasons for coming here, it changed me a lot. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It really
think-
brought to light to me the human sacrifice and the courage that it takes for them to come here and all that they endured. It's like at the very end, they finally have a coyote who's going to bring him here. And then look what they went through. And the one who broke his leg, and the one who stayed
Right.
back, and, the death, it's like, oh my goodness, it's like the perils and so many children. This brought to light the real hardship and the courage and the sacrifice they're making for hope for a better future.
It reminded me of one news story I saw where a father had hold of his daughter, and I don't know if she was somewhere between 4 and 6, and he dropped her over the wall on the other side on American soil. And he sacrificed being there, protecting her, hoping that someone would take her in and give her a better life. And all of the things that these people, just feel like there's no hope for me for better, but I will do anything for my child to have better.
Right.
Was that image of him dropping his child on the other side of the wall into America, and then what these people did to finally get across into America is just harrowing. It's just really hard to think of. They go through things that we can't even imagine.
Correct.
Even on our worst day is better than their best day.
Right. Right. Well, like I shared with you ladies before, having grown up in San Diego, I've seen so many different things, so many different sides of this coin. It really took me aback. This book just really made me stop and think about, all of my opinions for 50 years of, illegals and coyotes and, runners. And I mean, there's hundreds of names. It just really made me stop and think about that. It's like, wow, they really just want more. They just want better. And how can you fault anybody for wanting better? That's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to want, know better to do better. And I enjoyed this book way more than I thought I would. And Zadie, I never pick violent books. Never, never, never. I don't do violence. And I don't do sex in books. That's just not my thing. And when it started, I was like, oh no, and I have to read this one. It's my pick. So, it definitely changed my way of thinking, and it's even changed my way of praying. And so this 2024, I have a new section of prayer every single day in my prayer life. And it's just really changed the way I look at a lot of things in a good way and in a bad way, So I really enjoyed it. I hope you did too. I hope the massacre didn't stay with you too long. I try to just keep blocking it out of my head. But that's my book, American Dirt.
Awesome. Tiffany, thank you so very much. I think all of us are clapping. I thought the book was phenomenal. All of us did. Tammy, who wasn't able to join us tonight, she thought the book was great. So thank you for an excellent choice. So we're going to sign this off for today. And until next time, happy reading.
Thank you.
Now I have to see how to stop it. It's like everything changes.